As flattered as I am that you would use me as a couples therapist, it is my non-professional opinion that you should seek an actual professional.
But you're the only one crazy enough to understand us.
Yeah, and to be fair, we do usually get along better when we take you against your will. Well, I've been kidnapped so many times at this point, there's probably a plumber constantly being told that I'm in another castle. What can I say? We're bound tighter when you're bound tighter.
And I can practice my arts and crafts on your manacles.
Yes, they're lovely, thanks. So let's get to the heart of the argument. Rather not talk about it. Good, I'd rather not hear about it. Key, please.
It's just that we thought that we agreed on every single thing and we found out that there's one major hiccup.
The Evil Dead movies.
Yeah, if I had a nickel for every couple those broke up.
He prefers the remake, even though the original is the cult classic.
It's gooier and more realistic.
It's demons possessing people. How is that more realistic?
I can tell you some things.
The funny thing is, it's kind of amazing we're having this conversation at all. The original Evil Dead, a horror film about a group of people being possessed by spirits, is still considered a cult classic. It put Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell on the map, led to hugely entertaining sequels, and still stands as one of the most uniquely corny yet somehow badass horror films ever made. So, when it was announced a remake was coming out, people reacted how everybody reacts when they hear a remake is coming out. It was betraying what was perfect, don't fix what's not broken, something about fucking your mother with a chainsaw, it's the internet, you know somebody said that. Yet when the movie came out, many people were surprisingly open to it. They said it was different enough to be its own thing, yet had just enough callbacks and practical effects to make it a loving send-up. The blood hit the fan, and a lot of people seemed to have a gory good time. Well, most people.
Oh, come on, that never works. I know you can hear me. I know you can hear me. Oh, hey, can you not hear that? Can you not hear that? Oh, can you not hear that? It's so silent. Hey! Oh, you can hear him, but not me, huh? Oh, yeah, just keep going in. Go to your happy little world. That's for hey!
Now, a good therapist will tell you that disagreement is the core of compromise, and being open to a new point of view helps you grow as a couple. Thankfully, I'm not a good therapist, so I say fight until somebody wins.
Yeah!
So strap yourself in. Whether you have a choice or not, I don't have a choice, do I? Yeah, kind of figured. This is Old versus New, The Evil Dead. The one thing to keep in mind is we're only doing the first Evil Dead movie, not any of the sequels. So put away your phone a chainsaw hand for badass credit points card.
Oh, but this is literally the only time that I could ever use this.
Don't worry, Punches. I'll find other times.
Let's start with story. In many respects, the stories are very similar. Two groups of people go to a cabin in the middle of the woods where they discover the Book of the Dead. They idiotically read it out loud, summoning the evil spirits, and one by one the people are possessed, killed off, or maimed in some sort of beautifully grotesque way.
Exactly, they're so similar, what's even the point?
Well, the remake does have a few additions. In the original, they're just going for a getaway, but in the new one, they're going as a means to get their friend off drugs. Not only does this already start off on an uncomfortable level, but it makes the belief of the supernatural all the more nerve-wracking because they think it's all just part of her withdrawal. On top of that, she and her brother have a mother who went crazy, so both of them have a fear of losing control and not mentally knowing what's going on. The story suddenly has more purpose, as these siblings are not only trying to stop these things, both mentally and physically, but they're also trying to figure out what's real and what's not.
It also starts off as any psychologically challenging film should, violent as hell! The first film, they just arrive at the cabin, but in this one, this chick is knocked out, her dad's gonna burn her alive, for some reason that Eraserhead baby is there, and only as she's fired up does she reveal her roasting bitch face. Then pop goes the evil! That's how you start a gory movie! Blood!
What was the point of all that?
Blood!
But it doesn't tie into anything!
You guys don't mind if I phone for help, do you?
No, go ahead.
Fine.
I know it's technically the people that were there before, but we barely know anything about them. Like, who was that Eraserhead baby guy?
Yeah, that was a little weird.
The original starts off simple and unassuming. You have no idea what you're in for. The Book of the Dead is discovered and you have no idea what it can do, building up the suspense. You also hear more about who these people are, seemingly kind folks who stumble across something awful, which makes it even more uncomfortable building up what's coming. The remake gives away too much too soon.
You think that was pointless? How about getting wood?
Oh, schmookums later.
No, I mean literally the scene of the woman getting wood! What was the point in that?
That is kind of a good point. In the remake, there is a similar scene, but it doesn't show as much detail and is clearly done to show how the character is getting possessed. The original was definitely done to play up the shock value and exploitation vibe, even though, as far as I know, it doesn't really tie into anything.
Oh, come on. Just because the guy who came up with this insisted on vacuum form shirts, naked women in chains, and ended up marrying Xena Warrior Princess, everyone thinks he has an issue or two.
Well, the creators of the first one definitely said they wanted to make the most shocking horror film at the time. So I guess a lot of the random gore, violence, and scenes that don't really seem to have much explanation all fall under the rationale of just trying to get an uncomfortable reaction. Like any horror film, I guess.
But even then, they keep it to just the people in the cabin who attack. Who the hell is this girl at the end of the remake?
Oh, that's the girl in the book, based on the girl in the poster, based on the maybe girl who got shot in the intro. She can survive that, right? But who cares? Look what she does to her! Ha ha! This is mayhem beginning to end!
This ending feels tagged on, making the story feel longer, and it's a happy ending. What the hell?
Oh, I forgot. You don't believe in happy endings.
Oh, puppykin.
You can't puppykin your way out of this one!
Actually, you're both kinda right. While the ending does drag a bit, it does still give us some good gore and a literal bloodstorm. Yeah, it makes no sense, but I think that's part of the course for these movies. In fact, the majority of the remake has good fast pacing, usually jumping from one crazy gore fest to another with little time to take a breath. The original is much slower, not only getting to the bloodbath, but also in the breaks it takes. I know this is for mood and character, but let's be honest, that's not what people are exactly here for. They're here to see crazy shit happen. And not only does the remake cut to the crazy shit faster, but they give an additional edge with two of the characters not knowing what to believe, giving them little time to regain their senses and look over the situation. While the ending does feel drawn out, the rest of the film moves arguably smoother than the original, which moves much slower but ends exactly where it should end. No, I mean, leaving it open for 2 sequels and a TV series, of course. So, when adding everything up, the story in the remake is better because it adds more of what's needed and takes out more of what's not.
Yeah, baby!
Okay, Christ, how much of my ceiling is still standing?
I don't know.
It's okay, it has a long history of people crashing through and shooting at it.
Yeah, you should really get that looked at.
Little preoccupied at the moment.
It's like you to gloat.
It's like you to goat!
What?
You heard me!
Yeah, I did, but I didn't get it.
You didn't get it to spite me!
Okay! It's not my intention to anger the man who dresses in guns, so why don't we use the puppets that my therapy book / how to survive a hostage situation recommended?
Yeah, I guess we could do that.
Sure.
You just can't beat the main actor in the original films. It's Bruce Campbell, for God's sakes.
Yeah, but he was barely in it, though!
Why are you using that voice?
I don't know, just feel like that's how we should talk.
Well, you're not supposed to use a funny voice, you're just supposed to, like, talk.
Well, then why are we using him at all?
Use the puppet!
Why are we using him at all?
You're doing the voice again!
How is that supposed to help?
It's supposed to help you say things that you would never say.
Oh, you mean like the original Evil Dead is better?
I don't like playing dolls with you. Pup!
My mini boner. You destroyed my mini boner! I'll kill you! I'll kill you! Die! Oh my god, I killed her.
You killed her.
I kill Puppet you.
You killed Puppet me.
Do we bury her in a shoebox or how's this work?
She wanted to be cremated.
Puppet you is very specific.
Well, she prepared for everything except for you killing her ass.
Alright, let me find a fireplace.
Christ, this is best main character! Now this is really difficult because while one is a really good actress with a great backstory and wide range, the other is Bruce fucking Campbell!
Come on, it's Bruce Campbell. Nobody can dislike anything he does. It's like a commandment.
But there is one major problem. This isn't really the Ash we've all come to know and love. He's not a badass, he's not a line quoter, he's not a larger-than-life screw-up, he's just a guy. Not even a very interesting guy. When danger comes along, he usually just stands around and does nothing. His name isn't even Ash, it's Ash Lee. What a bizarre naming choice. Is that why in the next one they give one of the women 2 boys' names? It's like calling John Wayne Daisy, or Anne Rice Howard, or Stevie Wonder Steve Land. But what's in a name as long as the character is cool? And honestly, this is not a cool character. He's the dweeb, he's the loser, he's the guy you kinda forget about so that it surprises you when he's the one that survives at the end. Mia is kind of a similar fake out. She's the first one to get possessed, so you naturally think she's going to die. But through some very strange demonic loopholes, she ends up coming back and the brother gets axed. However, the range she has to go through is amazing. She has to be pissed off but composed, withdrawing, getting possessed, going back and forth between reality and crazy town, and then she has to be the fighting hero at the end. In a sense, she kinda plays every role you can play in a horror film. It's like a one-woman gore show.
Plus, she's the greatest combination of Gollum and Grima Wormtongue ever!
Ash in the first film is just kinda the victim. He does eventually fight back, but not in a way that makes us want to cheer for him. The remake surprisingly has more Ash qualities than the original Ash, despite her not even playing the same character. Don't get me wrong, Ash has got some funny lines and he's entertaining, but in comparing the two, there's just a lot more in both writing and performing with the remake.
But this Ash gives birth to the cowardly badass that we all know and love.
But that's not what's represented here. If there were no other movies and we just had to judge these two on their own, Mia would be the more interesting character.
Kitten Mush, what are you doing?
I don't know. I'm agreeing with him, and yet my hand wants to kill him based on what his outcome's gonna be.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but Mia is the much better character compared to Ashley. Not Ash, Ashley.
I can't help it! I agree with him, but my hand wants to kill him for saying anything bad about Bruce Campbell!
We need him for our counseling!
I don't have control! You know what needs to be done? I'm gonna lop off my Bruce Campbell loving hand!
What? That's crazy!
Maybe, but who's laughing now? I know this seems excessive.
Yeah.
Like I should really just grow up.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, this was silly.
Point goes to the new. But you can't have a horror film without a lineup of bodies.
Or a rescue.
What the hell? Benny, thank God you got my message. Get me out of here, man!
We can do this the easy way or the fun way.
Oh, no you don't, Agent J. There's no way you're gonna get in the way of our little feud with the Evil Dead movies.
Oh, you're doing the Evil Dead movies. Can I join?
Sure.
Yeah, sit down.
Thanks. I could never make up my mind of which one I liked more. You know, I could talk about those movies to death.
So can we!
Which part are you at?
Oh, I was talking about the supportive backup that ends up being a lifeless lump on a log or couch.
I do love fiction.
Best fucking supporting cast.
If I remember correctly, neither of these movies had particularly strong backup characters.
Yeah, the support in both versions is pretty by the numbers. They both clearly exist just to be victims to either be killed off or possessed. When they get possessed, they're a lot of fun, each one with creative ways to look grotesque, gooey, and horrifying. But that still doesn't mean they have much personality before they're taken over.
The closest was probably the brother in the second version because he at least had a concern for his sister's mental health, which ties into the fear of his mental health as well. But we know he's not gonna go crazy.
Yep, just bagging up his sister's head and burying her alive. What, your brother never did that to you?
There's also a clever trick where just before the blonde dies, the spirit leaves her body, meaning she can go back to normal. This is great for later when the brother has no idea if Mia being buried is the real Mia or not. But aside from that, the supporting cast doesn't offer that much and aren't really very memorable. The original Evil Dead has a huge advantage though. It has a sense of humor. Because it does have a corny way of doing things that's both frightening and kind of funny, the performances can be a little more hammy and not seem out of place. In a weird way, their sometimes awkward way of saying things helps them stand out more.
Yeah, come on, I remember Nailhead and Cutty Face and Asshole Who Read Book Out Loud for no reason. Oh my god, they do kinda suck.
Their performances are fine enough, so they're not distracting, but they're not strong enough to leave an impression. The original's performances are just off enough that you remember them a little more.
Say what you will about Sam Raimi, but there's always something to remember. Except Costner baseball movie number 4.
What was that one called?
I don't remember.
So, in a strange way, the original's ability to be less convincing but more stylized actually works better than the remake, which is more convincing but less interesting.
The newer ones just didn't leave their mark.
Dude, are you kidding? Those scars are gonna be there forever.
I mean on our memory.
Point goes to the old.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah! You can take your little mini boner and shove it up a butt!
Dude, too soon.
Oh, I'm sorry, Snuggles.
I'm still getting over that.
I won't ask.
But let's stop wasting time and get to some action and violence. Right, Benny?
Yep.
Like, right now?
Uh-huh.
While you're sitting there?
Totally down.
Getting to the reason you came here?
You know it.
Taking out the 2 people sitting next to you?
I'm finding it harder to put a spin on that, but yes.
This is best gore.
Oh, what a bloody mess of a bloody mess. The gore in these movies are awesome, but it's the best in the new one. It looks more real, more painful, more disgusting.
You're missing the point, though. It's not about how real it looks, it's about how creative and inspired it is, especially on such a low budget. Evil Dead has a big following, so of course the remake is gonna have more money to make it more real.
But give them credit, that in a time where computers do everything, the majority of the gore is done on set.
So, all of the effects of the original were done on set.
Both of these movies have very creative yet very different ways of doing their gore. The first film focused more on monster makeup, making them look more like demonic creatures. The remake focuses more on the avenues of mutilation. The monster stuff is mainly just contacts.
But look at all the crazy ass ways they're chopped up. It's like a sculpture of clay that bleeds.
It's kinda hard to see though, isn't it? There's often flickering lights or too many dark shadows.
Oh, what? There weren't a lot of shadows in the first one?
They definitely were, but they were shot in a way where you can make them out better.
Yeah, you can make out how fake it is.
I can't even!
You can and you have!
I'm Benny.
It's true the film's low budget shows more in the original, but not only is that part of the fun, it also allows us to question the ingenuity. You know if anything went wrong in the remake, they could, and probably did, just digitally alter it. With the original, what you see is what you get, so there's not only a greater feeling of authenticity, but also a greater appreciation for it. This effect of the animated scars growing took an hour to animate live on set, and the weight of that time is felt in those few seconds.
Being fair, the remake must have taken a lot of time too.
It's true, and the efforts show. The effects look a lot more juicy and fleshy. Even the Book of the Dead actually looks like it was bound in human flesh and not burnt bean dip. They're still impressive and go to the extremes for their kills.
But again, the original's low budget is not only impressive for what they did on so little, but it also somehow feels more painful. When somebody gets injured in the remake, it's inventive, but you don't really feel the pain. In the original, even when it looks fake, you feel how much it would have hurt.
Part of that could be because a lot of the actors were getting hurt. They didn't have enough for stunt people, so half the time when someone really got hurt, they just left it in. There was less protection and therefore more risks, and that tension comes through the acting and makeup. If they all look like they only have one shot to fight something off, it's because mostly they did only have one shot. I'm sure the original actors had to go through a pain-in-the-ass shoot too, but compare a tracking shot from the remake to a tracking shot in the original. Branches are hitting the camera, it's shaky, it's getting gunk on it. This is the kind of unprepared feeling that follows you throughout the whole film, which surprisingly works to its advantage. The other can look dirty too, but it's also a lot more smooth and less shaky, and you feel a little bit more of the manipulation. Not a ton, just in comparison to the original. Add on top of that more variety in the different types of blood, scars, monsters, and techniques, and you have a competition that's close, but still favoring the original. Point goes to the old.
That's two that went to not my side. The next one better go to the remake, or everyone's gonna ask what's that bowl of SpaghettiOs that used to be the Nostalgia Critic's face!
Or it can go to the original, so I won't have to surgically remove my foot from the exploded remains of what used to be your testicles.
These are really good chips.
Well, seeing how there's no way out of this without a huge amount of pain.
A lot.
A lot amount of pain.
Let's just go to the final category. Atmosphere. In a horror film, atmosphere is everything. Whether getting people to scream, laugh, or both, there has to be a unique environment and feel that puts you in a unique mood. Both films have a lot of silence and both films have a lot of screaming. They both know how to utilize it and when to surprise people with something unexpected. I guess in some respects the remake has the disadvantage because everyone has an idea of what's coming. But it was different enough and so in its own world that when it did follow something from the original, we almost forgot that, oh yeah, this is a remake. We weren't shouting, where's this scene or where's that line? We instead enjoyed whatever new direction it was trying to take us. But the biggest problem is that the remake is, while very well done, just another horror film. We've seen these kind of characters, scenarios, and even effects done in dozens of other movies. While the setup to the original has certainly been done to death, everything else is uniquely its own. The camera work, the odd pacing, the weird acting, the strange effects, all of these fall under a genre that you could argue Evil Dead almost created. People were laughing and screaming while watching it, and all the problems that usually work against a movie were working towards making it one of the most unique scary films ever made. The new Evil Dead did its job very well, beyond expectations even. But it's not gonna break any landmarks. It had to be a little safer and more dramatic because it had to show they were taking this remake seriously. There was no way out of that. It could make a reference or two with the chainsaw and such, but it could never wink too hard at the audience because it would feel too gimmicky. Because of this, it was hard for the film to have any sense of humor. The original Evil Dead, of course, has a great sense of humor, sometimes intentional, sometimes not, but it was always present. That's a big part of what made it stand out. It's not the remake's fault for any of these problems, honestly, I don't know how you could really work around it. It's amazing that they got the product that they did, something different but still familiar enough to be a loving homage to a classic. However, that's what it is, an homage to a classic that can't always be defined, repeated, or even fully understood. It's a rare kind of insanity that stands on its own, where even the bad stuff is good. It holds up in how much it doesn't hold up. It's timeless, yet totally dated. It's shocking, but not in a shocking way. Even to this day, it doesn't always add up. It's just kind of its own entity, and the remake is trying to recapture what honestly can't be fully explained. There's an Evil Dead remake which is surprisingly good, but there is only one original Evil Dead, and it will stay that way for years and years. Point goes to the old, winning the match.
It didn't have to be this way, Critic.
Troy would have shot some part of you, but it'd be a part that you would survive through, I think. After more, I think about not changing my plans that much, but nevertheless, you are gonna die.
My one regret is not talking like a pirate on Talk Like a Pirate Day. I should have given that a chance.
That's right, right here, in your own studio. You parrot, for God's sakes, throat slitter, I'm trying to kill a guy!
Well, I've never distracted you before.
Well, we've never been in a fight before.
I hate fighting with you, Bubblegum.
I do too, Razorblade, but how we gotta settle our differences?
You know, I do have a brother that specializes in just this sort of thing.
I see. So me refusing to back down comes from my fear of artichokes.
And my need for attention comes from my past of wrestling polar bears.
By God, it all makes sense! You finally cured us!
Thank you, Bill! You've given us a new chapter in our lives that we'll never forget!
Come, sharpshooter! Let's go do stuff!
Together stuff!
I miss food. Hey, Doug Walker here doing the charity shout out. This week we are doing the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network. This is a nationwide network of people dedicated to working together to advance research, support, and create hope for those affected by pancreatic cancer. Of the major cancers, pancreatic cancer has the lowest survival rate. In 2010, the organization declared a bold and aggressive vision. After seeing too little progress in pancreatic cancer survival in over half a century, they put a stake in the ground to double pancreatic cancer survival by 2020. To do this, they're addressing 5 major needs: clinical trials that match patients' needs, higher clinical trial enrollment rate, doctors delivering best practices, and more public awareness and visibility. If you look at their site or their YouTube page, you can see not only the progress they're making, but how you too can help in bringing this awful illness to an end. Take a look, hear all the amazing stories, and see how you too can be a part of history.